The story begins with a bright, sunny morning. Jinmida inspects his vegetables with the intensity of a scientist making a breakthrough. 4 years ago, he quit his job to farm in a quiet countryside town. Now drenched in sweat but grinning at his booming crops, he feels accomplished. The morning sun is already working overtime, but he decides to check on his rice fields. Birds cross through the water, snapping up snails and tadpoles until something silver disrupts the scene. In the middle of the field, someone lies motionless. As he approaches, shock hits. It's a female knight, collapsed in his rice field. For a moment, he considers a cosplayer but quickly dismisses it. No one in this town is that committed, let alone willing to faint in full armor. With the sun blazing, he rushes toward her, panic setting in. Flustered, he kneels and tries to wake her. She twitches, then slowly blinks, revealing emerald green eyes. Relief washes over him, only to be replaced by awe, as her radiant skin, golden hair, and piercing gaze leave him momentarily frozen. Curious, he steps closer and, with concern, asks if she understands him and if she's okay. But before he can process her state, she suddenly snaps awake, eyes wide in shock, and yells at him to stay back, while flinging mud straight at his face. Annoyed, he wipes his face, baffled by her reaction. She was the one who collapsed in his field, yet she's treating him like a suspect. Still fuming, she rudely demands to know where she is and who he is, as if he's the intruder here. Frustration bubbles up. Shouldn't he be the one asking these questions? But keeping his composure, he calmly introduces himself as the owner of this rice field, the very one she crashed into. However, when he curiously asks why she's here in the first place, she freezes in shock. She doesn't react, just stares blankly at the birds in the sky, the vast farmland, and everything around her, as if seeing them for the first time. Her strange behavior irritates him, making him wonder if she ended up here by accident. Deciding it's best not to get involved, he turns to leave, brushing off his curiosity and simply hoping she won't trample his crops. But before he can take another step, a sudden yank stops him. With muddy hands, she grabs the back of his shirt, as he suddenly shouts in frustration, furious at her for smearing mud all over his shirt. She abruptly, almost rudely, demands answers about this place, leaving him utterly dumbfounded. Turning back, he smirks teasingly, questioning whether she is still half delirious. But despite her flustered apology, she fires back, insisting on a serious response. His confusion only deepens. After all, they are in Japan. Her sheer ignorance of such a well-known country sends another wave of shock through him. How can someone be this oblivious? Hesitantly, he asks for her identity. With a dramatic sigh, she introduces herself as Seraphim Statfeld, the esteemed eldest daughter of a knight family serving the kingdom of Leforia. His thoughts spiral. A knight family? A kingdom? His brows knit as he struggles to recall anything remotely related to such a place. Her expression shifts from disbelief to anger when he finally admits his cluelessness. How can a mere farmer be this ignorant of the world's most powerful kingdom? Her thunderous outrage shakes the air, but his blank stare remains unbothered. Desperate, he hesitantly speculates whether she is acting out some bizarre anime trope and even suggests she drop the act. That, unsurprisingly, only throws oil on the fire, sending her into an even more explosive fit of rage. She grips her sword tightly, scolding him with fiery indignation for mocking a knight with absurd terms like anime and characters. With a sharp glare, she declares he is under their protection and must show respect. Then, raising her sword, she furiously proclaims his insolence unforgivable and prepares to strike. But just as she lunges, she suddenly wavers, her breath ragged. His alarm shifts to concern as he quickly asks if she's okay. Between exhausted gasps, she admits she hasn't slept after endless battles with monsters. Before he can react, she collapses. He glances at her unconscious state to the relentless sun above and exhales in frustration. Clearly, he has no choice. With an annoyed sigh, he steps closer. Even in her semi-conscious state, she finds herself mesmerized by the crisp air, the mind-blowing symphony of birds, and even the gentle rustling of grass, sensation she has never experienced before. But the moment realization hits, she is surprised to find herself on his back. Meanwhile, he finally staggers to a stop, panting and drenched in sweat, exhaling in relief as his house comes into view. Noticing her wide-eyed bewilderment at the place, he relaxes slightly and clarifies that it's his home. With a mix of curiosity and concern, he suggests she rest here, admitting he still doesn't fully grasp her situation. However, if she collapses again, things could get dangerous. Grateful, she humbly thanks him. Still catching his breath, He trembles slightly as he stands, awkwardly apologizing before pointing out that while she may be weak, she should try standing on her own. Her armor is absurdly heavy, carrying her nearly broke his back. More than that, he's completely baffled by how she, just a dedicated cosplayer, could even manage to wear something this ridiculous. But before he can finish processing, she suddenly springs from his back and, in an instant, leaps onto the upper wall with effortless agility. As he stretches his aching shoulders in agony, his exhaustion is replaced with sheer shock. Just what kind of cosplayer is she? She stops in her tracks, stunned by the sheer size of his house. But when he casually invites her in, her shock triples. How could a mere farmer own something so grand? Meanwhile, he watches her reaction in disbelief. To him, it's just an ordinary home, nothing special. With a shrug, he explains it only has a bit of extra space. Her awe doesn't fade, though, it only deepens as she takes in the advanced technology inside, utterly baffled by its presence here. Still recovering from her dramatic reaction, he steps in but quickly stops, eyeing her dusty shoes and heavy armor with concern. Firmly, he instructs her to leave them outside. Without question, she agrees, clearly not grasping why. But as she removes her armor, something catches his attention. Her clothes are surprisingly simple. Suspicion creeps in, but as he takes in her tall, elegant frame and delicate features, he hesitates. She looks like a foreigner, yet something about her seems not of this world. Though briefly impressed by her beauty, convinced she'd go viral overnight if she entered showbiz, his attention shifts to her drenched state. Without hesitation, he offers her a bath, but the mere idea of bathing in his house leaves her utterly shocked. Puzzled by her reaction, he casually admits to having a bathroom, only for her curiosity to skyrocket, eyes widening in disbelief. When she loudly questions how a farmer could possibly own a bathtub, he sighs, explaining, slightly annoyed, that being a farmer doesn't mean being poor. Her perception of farmers clearly baffles him. Rushing off his concerns, he steps closer to the tub, turning on the tap to fill it with warm water. The moment steaming water flows out, she stares at it like she's witnessing alien technology. But her real shock comes when she spots the water heater on the wall, her curiosity and disbelief deepening beyond measure. She gapes at the shower knob like it's some kind of magic, then, ignoring his frantic shouting, eagerly pulls the lever. A second later, she's completely drenched. He groans, scolding her while she blinks in confusion at the attacking shower. Apologizing, she insists she's never seen anything like this before. That stuns him. Even foreigners have baths. But looking at her soaked, baffled state, a more pressing thought hits him. Has she lived her whole life without knowing what a shower is? And do foreigners not bathe? Still baffled, he asks if she truly has no idea what a shower is. She nods apologetically, feeling ashamed of her ignorance, and hesitantly requests him to teach her. Jin, more confused than ever, steps out of the bathroom. Her shock seems too real to be an act. Deciding not to overthink, he calls her by her full name and tells her to bathe while he fetches clothes and a towel. Looking down humbly, she corrects him, just Sarah is fine, and thanks him for his help. Though still puzzled, he concludes that, despite her oddities, she isn't a bad person and decides to assist her. Sarah unties her hair and hesitantly enters the bathroom, removing her clothes with slight uncertainty. Sitting on the bath chair, she carefully pulls the shower lever, marveling at the warm water. Slowly stepping into the bathtub, she lets the heat soothe her, her usually blank face softening in rare relaxation. As she bathes, the peaceful view outside catches her eye. Mesmerized, she stands up, gazing out the window in quiet wonder. Meanwhile, Jin Maeda, 29, single, and utterly unprepared, stares anxiously at his old high school tracksuit. With no women in his house, he has nothing else to offer her. After realizing none of his other clothes would fit, he sighs and settles on the tracksuit, at least relieved he still has it. Reaching the bathroom door, he loudly and formally announces that he's leaving clothes and a towel outside. Just as he sets them down, Sarah steps out. They both freeze. Realizing her mistake, and his utterly stunned expression, she lets out a startled scream. Jin yells too. In a blur, they slam the door shut, leaning against it, faces burning. The house shakes with their deafening screams, so loud even the frog outside is confused. Overcome with embarrassment and guilt, Jin immediately apologizes, explaining he only came to give her clothes and a towel. Sarah, just as flustered, exhales and admits she understands, realizing he had no bad intentions. Jin, utterly relieved, nearly sinks to his knees in gratitude. Blushing, she suggests they just forget this ever happened. Laughing nervously, he agrees and tells her to change and meet him in the living room when she's done. A while later, she approaches him, apologizing for making him wait. As he turns, he casually asks if the outfit fits, only to be left speechless, because the tracksuit fits her perfectly. Meanwhile, Sarah, still marveling at the shockingly cozy fabric, barely notices his reaction. But Jin, staring at her looking effortlessly fashionable in his old high school gear, suddenly wonders. As Sarah sits across from Jin when he suddenly coughs, realizing she isn't wearing any undergarments, she notices his reaction, but he quickly pretends he saw nothing. Trying to change the subject, he asks if she wants to rest or eat. She insists she's not hungry until her stomach growls loudly. Face flushing, she mutters an apology while Jin, without a word, heads to the kitchen to make breakfast. Checking the fridge, he sighs at the few leftovers and marinated vegetables. Spotting eggs, he puts a pot on the stove and starts whisking. When Sarah offers help, he simply tells her to sit. She's a guest, and it's almost done. As the savory aroma fills the air, Sarah's hunger grows unbearable. She watches the kitchen like a starving cat while Jin warms the miso soup. When he finally returns with the dishes, she clutches her stomach, looking starved. Excited at first, she's about to dig in but hesitates, feeling guilty that he prepared so much just for her. Jin casually waves it off, saying it's just leftovers. Still, her worried expression makes him ask if she dislikes the food. Looking down, she assures him she's not picky, but then, in shock, asks if she's supposed to eat with her hands. Realizing her confusion, Jin explains chopsticks, only to see her even more bewildered. Quickly understanding that using them might be tough for a foreigner, he hands her a fork and knife instead. She thanks him cheerfully. While he remains puzzled, she speaks flawless Japanese yet seems completely clueless about its culture. As Jin places a spoon and knife in front of her, then calmly joins his hands in prayer, Sarah watches him curiously until he explains he's thanking God for the meal. Considering it a local custom, she follows suit, closing her eyes. Jin, mesmerized by her serene expression, momentarily forgets his own prayer. Noticing the steaming bowl of rice, she curiously asks about it. When he explains it's made from the same crop she collapsed in, she looks amazed. Picking up a spoonful, she inspects it as if uncovering a mystery. The moment she takes a bite, her eyes widen in delight. She never expected something so simple to taste this sweet. Jin, both confused and amused, wonders if this is her first time eating rice. Still, seeing her enjoy it makes him happy. He suggests she try it with side dishes to enhance the flavor, offering her one. She hesitantly takes a bite, and the moment the taste hits, her face lights up, eyes closed, cheeks flushed with delight. Watching her eat so enthusiastically, Jin finds himself smiling, momentarily setting aside his curiosity about her identity. As she lifts the soup bowl, fascinated by its comforting aroma, she takes a sip and sighs in pure satisfaction. Seeing her reaction, Jin casually tells her it's miso soup, but she's too enchanted by the taste to respond. As she eats and chats, he realizes how long it's been since he shared a meal with someone. The warmth of the moment surprises him. It feels strangely pleasant. After the meal, Jin washes the dishes while she stays in the living room, sipping warm tea, her face still glowing from the delicious food. Standing near the kitchen door, he watches as she, slightly flustered, finally asks for his name. Realizing he never introduced himself, he awkwardly corrects the oversight. When she repeats his full name, Mida Jin, he casually explains that Mida is his surname and Jin is his given name. But instead of a simple nod, she freezes in shock. Her reaction deepens when he tells her that surnames are common in Japan and not a sign of nobility. Completely baffled, she stares at him, struggling to process both the concept of surnames and Japan itself. Annoyed, Jin dries his hands with a towel and tells her to drop the act. There's no way she's really a knight. Offended, she jumps up, shouting that she's an honest-to-goodness knight. But her dramatic declaration is immediately undercut when Jin casually points out the grain of rice stuck to her mouth. She freezes, then quietly sits back down, sulking. Jin, now genuinely curious, sits beside her and calmly asks where she's from. Clenching her fists and looking somber, she tells him she was in the forests of the Twingle region in the Kingdom of Leforia. She hesitates before asking if she can continue her explanation, while Jin, still distracted, can't stop thinking about that stubborn grain of rice. As she recalls, she had been deep in the Twingle region of the Leforia Kingdom, a monster-infested land. One of her subordinates was injured, another was bewildered by the creatures before them. These monsters were nothing like what had been reported. Worse, their squad was scattered. Panting from battle, she took charge, commanding them to regroup. They hesitated, stunned as she cut down enemies with swift, precise strikes. When they called out to her in concern, she turned back with a firm order: find the others. She would handle this alone. Under the full moon, she fought relentlessly, pushing forward despite exhaustion. After what felt like an eternity, she could barely stand, both her body and mind drained. Panting, gasping, she finally collapsed in the forest, and the next thing she knew, she had woken up in his rice field. Sitting in front of him, she watches his awkward smile, realizing he doesn't understand a word of her explanation. Frustration rises on both sides. She struggles to grasp why she has ended up in this unfamiliar place, surrounded by strange technology instead of magic. He listens patiently before calmly explaining that neither Twingle Forest nor the Laforia Kingdom exists here, making her even more unsettled. With unwavering resolve, she declares her intention to return, reunite with her squad, and ensure their safety before heading back to her kingdom. Jin, helpless in the face of her determination, finally pulls out his phone, showing her a world map. Confusion deepens as she scans it, unable to find any trace of her homeland. Overwhelmed, she suddenly stands and moves toward the room. He calls after her, concerned, but she simply turns back, her gaze steady. Gratitude shines in her eyes as she acknowledges everything he has done, silently vowing to repay his kindness one day. As she changes back into her attire, he tries to stop her, but her determination to return to her kingdom and reunite with her companions is unwavering. Ignoring his protests, she steps out of his house, while he keeps shouting in concern that no such place exists. Before he can say anything more, she leaps from the high porch straight onto the road, leaving him momentarily speechless. Turning back briefly, she loudly expresses her gratitude once again, declaring her hope to meet him someday. Then, without hesitation, she dashes forward with incredible speed, disappearing down the road like a speeding vehicle. Watching her move at an inhuman pace, his initial assumption that she might be a cosplayer begins to crumble, replaced by sheer disbelief. Back inside his house, he still finds himself curiously pondering Sarah's strange tales about Laforia, but he quickly shakes off the thoughts, reminding himself that she has already left. Just as he tries to move on, his eyes land on the clock, 2:20 p.m. A wave of panic washes over him as he suddenly remembers his scheduled produce delivery to the wholesaler at 4 p.m. Shouting in alarm, he scrambles to get everything ready, realizing he has far less time than he thought. He heads straight to his farm, exhausted but determined to gather the vegetables for delivery. As he plucks them, his mind keeps drifting back to the bizarre encounter with Sarah, still half convinced she was just a weird cosplayer. Shaking off the thoughts, he focuses on his work until his eyes land on a perfectly ripened cucumber, oddly reminding him of her sword. He quickly dismisses the thought, reminding himself it doesn't matter. After years of struggle, his job of delivering homegrown vegetables has finally stabilized. Bowing apologetically for his late arrival, he prepares for the usual scolding, but the shop owner simply waves it off. Driving home, exhausted and disheveled, he reassures himself at least the delivery was on time. Blaming the day's chaos on Sarah, he just wants a cold beer, some fish, and sleep. Lost in thought, he suddenly slams the brakes, heart pounding. He nearly hits someone. Looking up, he freezes. Sarah is standing before him. Shocked, he rushes out of the truck, asking why she's here. Her face shifts from sadness to delight at seeing him, but when he asks if she found her way home, her expression darkens. Looking away, she admits her efforts were in vain. No one knew of her kingdom, only reacting with shock at her words. He falls silent, knowing she speaks of a place that doesn't exist. He also imagines the gossip that will spread tomorrow about her strange attire. Remembering how animated she had been earlier, his chest tightens. Finally, flustered, he hesitantly asks if she might be from another world. Seeing her confusion, he apologizes, explaining that none of her claims make sense unless her kingdom is pure fiction. She protests, frustrated, insisting she's telling the truth. Watching her troubled expression, he exhales, realizing that if he truly believes her, the only explanation left is the impossible: she comes from another world. She sighs, nodding in quiet agreement. As absurd as it sounds, her world is undeniably different from this one. With a faint, bittersweet smile, she thanks him for believing her. Realizing how late it is, darkness settling around them, he gently offers her a place to stay for the night. She must be exhausted after searching all day. Without hesitation, she accepts. As he drives, he glances back, concerned. Despite having a seat inside, she chooses to sit in the open back of the truck. The smooth road ahead eases his mind, yet he can't shake his worry. Meanwhile, she sits in silence, staring at the full moon, confusion and unease flickering across her face. After arriving home, she composes herself and, with a small smile, assures him she isn't hungry, suggesting he get some rest. After a refreshing bath, he reflects on Sarah's situation. He senses she's trying to hide her confusion, and imagining himself in her place, completely isolated from his people, he admires her strength. If it were him, he'd likely be in tears. At exactly 10:30 p.m., he brings her a glass of water but stops in shock. She's sitting on the ground, her back to the door, silently crying as she wipes away her tears. Without a word, he quietly sets the glass down and steps away, leaving her to her solitude. As he looks at the fresh, nourished vegetables, he soaks the kelp in water to enhance the umami flavor for the broth. Recalling Sarah's delighted and radiant face when she drank the miso soup in the morning, he decides to season the fish with salt and let it marinate overnight. Remembering how much she enjoyed his cooking, he excitedly prepares a classic Japanese-style breakfast, hoping to replenish her energy and lift her spirits. As the morning birds chirp, she wakes up, momentarily disoriented before recalling the previous day and the full moon. Though a wave of sadness washes over her, she steels herself, deciding not to dwell on what she can't change. Sliding open the window, she is mesmerized by the breathtaking countryside. Just then, the aroma of delicious food reaches her, making her stomach growl. Following the scent, she enters the kitchen, where Jin is calmly chopping vegetables. Cheerfully, she greets him, startling him for a moment. After years of living alone, a morning greeting feels almost unreal. She thanks him for last night's water and, upon asking, places the glass on the table. Just then, an irresistible aroma wafts through the air, making her eyes narrow in suspicion. Offering to help, she's entrusted with the duty of setting the fish dish on the table. Meanwhile, he expertly scoops steaming rice into a pot, pours miso soup like a seasoned pro, and finishes with a dramatic sprinkle of fresh green onions, clearly taking his vegetable chopping skills very seriously. As she picks up the fish with her fork, the pleasant aroma instantly lifts her mood. One bite in, and she's completely mesmerized by its rich, fatty flavor. The rice and miso soup enhance the meal, each bite more satisfying than the last. She's especially captivated by the buttery fish and is even more intrigued when he casually mentions it's salmon. Her reaction? Pure shock. When asked if her world has fish, she explains there's only one, and it's rare, expensive, and to her horror, has a stubbornly muddy odor. He winces at the description, but secretly wonders what it tastes like. Just as he's processing this strange fish, he notices her looking unusually worried. Concerned, he asks if she's all right, only for her to flusteredly apologize for eating the salmon so messily. He simply smiles. After all, eating this fish with a fork is practically an extreme sport. Now, with tears welling up, she feels ashamed. What kind of knight eats so messily? He, unfazed, asks for her plate and effortlessly divides the fish with chopsticks. Her eyes lock onto the chopsticks, fascinated. Noticing, he grins and excitedly offers to teach her. Seeing her confusion, he switches tactics, instructing her to make her fingers go bang bang like he learned in kindergarten. Still baffled but curious, she follows along, unknowingly entering her toughest battle. Following his instructions, she finally balances the chopsticks and manages to grab a piece of fish, pure triumph. He cheers her on, but just as she lifts it to her mouth, it slips. Her puzzled expression only makes his amusement grow. Seeing her struggle, he suggests starting with something easier, like cucumber. She confidently tries again, but the cucumber, as if mocking her, slips away at the last second. Her embarrassment deepens while he laughs, thoroughly entertained. Sensing her disappointment, he reassures her that mastering chopsticks takes time. Unexpectedly, she becomes too motivated, repeating his words about practice like a knight preparing for battle. Watching her intense determination, he hesitates before sheepishly apologizing. He just wanted to help her relax, not turn her into a chopstick champion. Curious, he asks if she has any way back to her kingdom. She sighs, explaining that she spent the entire day scouring the rice field for any traces of magic, perhaps a teleportation circle, but found nothing. The realization left her utterly disappointed. He's baffled by all this magic talk, but feels sorry for her. Still, before he can say anything, she confidently declares that she'll earn a living by fighting monsters like goblins since she's skilled in battle. His shock is immediate. Monsters? Goblins? He breaks the news there are none here. Japan is the safest country in the world, with no need for knights. She's utterly floored. A world without monsters? That means her strongest skill is now completely useless. Disheartened at first, she quickly bounces back, determined to do heavy labor instead. She's strong after all. He considers it as her strength and agility are impressive, but then realizes a problem. Without an ID or permanent address, the only work she could get would be in the underworld, and that's dangerous. Before he can explain, she suddenly stands, humbly expressing her gratitude for his hospitality. Alarmed, he calls after her, frustrated by her rushed nature. Ignoring him, she quickly changes into her armor, once again thanking him for his kindness, despite expecting nothing in return. He exhales sharply. There's no way he's letting her charge into trouble alone. With a sigh, he follows after her. With a determined smile, she assures him that she'll gather the world's mages to find a way back home. And when she does, she guarantees she'll return to repay his kindness. After all, she may have shown some ungraceful sides, but she's still a knight. Watching her, he grows worried. If she falls in with the wrong people, things could get dangerous. He has zero experience finding jobs for someone from another world, but an idea pops in his mind. His eyes widen with excitement. Without thinking, he blurts out an offer for her to work at his place. She stares at him stunned. Realizing how that might have sounded, he awkwardly looks away. But before he can backtrack, she approaches with a grateful expression, cutely asking if he really has no issue living with her. He quickly clarifies he can't offer a top salary, and she'll have to work hard. To his surprise, she agrees without hesitation, beaming with delight. As long as she has food and shelter, she has zero complaints. He exhales in relief. With extra rooms in his house and an extra set of hands, this might actually work. Seeing her blush slightly as she thanks him, he smirks and warns her to brace herself for hard work. And just like that, they start living together. Standing outside the house, he lays down the rules: early mornings and tough labor. She nods eagerly, even volunteering to take care of his rice field and other tasks. With a calm smile, he reassures her, this world isn't that dangerous. After 3 days, one morning, he curiously asks if she's ready for work. With a smile and still wearing her sword, she excitedly steps out of the house. As they walk toward the farm, she assures him, though a bit confused, that she'll work with full devotion, even though it's her first time. He nods calmly in agreement. Noticing her sword, he asks if she plans to carry it all day. She blinks in confusion, genuinely wondering if that's a problem. After all, she doesn't feel at ease without it. Although he knows it's a problem, seeing her so cheerful and attached to her sword makes him hesitate. Relaxing, he explains that while there's no issue personally, Japanese law only allows blades up to 6 centimeters without special permission. This shocks her. No sword in case of a monster attack? That's just asking for trouble. He sighs, once again reminding her, no monsters here. Curious, she asks how long 6 centimeters actually is. When he shows her with his hand, she's even more horrified. Even kitchen knives are longer than that. He chuckles, explaining that kitchen knives are essential for cooking, but still can't be carried around. Seeing her worried expression, he reassures her that Japan is the safest country in the world, so people assume her sword is fake. But then, smirking, he warns her not to draw it in anger or panic, like she did when they first met. She pouts, insisting he made her mad. Finally, they arrive at the farm, where she looks at the plants with excitement and admiration. Entering the greenhouse, he informs her of today's task, harvesting long eggplants. Seeing the vast stretch of green plants, she excitedly asks if all of them are eggplants. Then, curiously eyeing the shed, she inquires about it. Smiling, he explains that it's a greenhouse, a structure that protects vegetables from weather and other external factors, helping them grow faster and healthier. Amazed by such advanced agricultural technology, she becomes even more excited. He nods in agreement. Compared to her world, it is quite advanced. Noticing her shocked expression at the size of the vegetables, he grins and explains the different varieties of eggplants. The ones they're harvesting are around 10 centimeters, but some can grow more. However, as he finishes, he catches her staring at him with slightly flushed cheeks. Confused, he asks what's wrong. Smiling, she teases him about how enthusiastic and talkative he gets when discussing vegetables. Seeing his flustered reaction, she playfully suggests he should always keep this softer and friendlier expression. With a delighted smile and flushed cheeks, she curiously asks if he truly loves his job. Caught off guard by the sudden question, he hesitates but eventually nods. Smiling fondly, she grips her sword and declares she feels the same way about it. A few moments later, as she examines the trolley more closely, she becomes even more excited. Amused by how easily it rolled forward with just a slight push, she starts playing with it like a child. Watching her, he chuckles before gently stopping her and suggesting she pluck the vegetables instead of playing with them. As he hands her a pair of scissors to harvest the vegetable from the base of the bud in front of her, she becomes visibly shocked upon seeing them. Sitting near the plant, she carefully holds the eggplant while he cheerfully explains that cutting it properly will help new shoots sprout quickly and grow denser. Despite her hesitation, she motivates herself to proceed. With one hand gently holding the eggplant and the other gripping the scissors, she recalls his instructions. Heart racing and face tense with worry, she finally makes the cut. At that exact moment, Jin suddenly lets out a loud exclamation, startling her. Panicked, she shouts in shock, quickly letting go of the eggplant and rushing away, anxiously asking if she had cut it wrong. Apologizing frantically, she insists that despite being her first time, she didn't want to harm his farm. Seeing her fear, he smirks mischievously and admits that she did it perfectly. He just wanted to tease her a little. But noticing her still clutching her sword in tension, he reassures her to relax and put it down. As she remains visibly worried, he sincerely apologizes with a light-hearted chuckle. After that, he swiftly harvests a large number of eggplants, leaving her stunned. Calmly, he explains that years of experience have made him an expert at it. Determined, she confidently assures him that she'll become just as fast today, which he acknowledges with a cheerful nod. As she pushes the empty vegetable cart for the first time, she suddenly loses her balance and falls straight to the ground. Concerned, he quickly asks if she's all right. Wincing in pain, she explains that her back hurts, making him chuckle. Watching her flustered expression, he can't help but smile, realizing how much he's enjoying his new life with her. Feeling exhausted yet satisfied, he looks at the harvested eggplants with a happy sigh. Meanwhile, she sits near the trays filled with vegetables, her eyes wide with excitement and curiosity. Eagerly, she asks what he plans to do with all of them. Calmly, he explains that they will be sorted, conditioned, and then sold in the market. However, holding up one eggplant with a grin, he excitedly declares that before anything else, they'll be eating it for lunch. Back at home, she excitedly asks about today's meal, cutely tying on an apron. Smiling at her enthusiasm, he explains that they'll be making tomato penne with long eggplants and tuna. Curious to help, she eagerly asks if there's anything she can do. Thinking for a moment, he hands her a peeler with a smile and asks her to peel the eggplant. She looks at it curiously, prompting him to happily demonstrate how to use it. Following his instructions, she places the peeler against the vegetable and smoothly removes the skin. Shocked by how convenient it is, she continues peeling while he, satisfied with her progress, instructs her to finish the rest as he prepares the other ingredients. As they work, she finally asks a question that had been on her mind for a long time. Why is he so skilled at cooking despite being a man? He glances at her and calmly explains that he's lived alone for years. Curious, he asks whether men don't cook in her world. She casually replies that only professional chefs do, as there's a belief that cooking is effeminate for men. Hearing this, he instantly thinks her mindset sounds like something from the early Showa period. After peeling the vegetables, she eagerly asks about the next step. When he calmly tells her to cut them diagonally, she looks utterly shocked. He stares at her speechlessly, wondering if she is really unfamiliar with even this basic cutting method. Without saying much, he simply picks up a knife and demonstrates, cutting the eggplant smoothly on the cutting board. Watching him carefully, she finally grabs the knife, but holds it like a combat weapon. Determined, she prepares to cut, but he immediately shouts for her to stop, alarmed at her dangerous grip. Seeing her confused expression, he sighs in frustration and asks if she has never cooked in her life. She stares at him, looking both embarrassed and disappointed in herself. Apologizing softly, she explains that in her family, she was trained in swordsmanship and horseback riding as a knight. She never had the chance to learn cooking. He sighs again, asking why she didn't mention this earlier, to which she hesitantly replies that she wanted to help in the kitchen. She feared that if she admitted her inexperience, he wouldn't let her cook at all, despite her strong desire to try. He looks at her in disbelief for a moment before sighing again. Then, gently taking her hand, he places the knife in it properly, standing behind her. In a calm but firm tone, he tells her that since she is now living with him, she should always ask when she has doubts about anything. For a brief second, his hand brushes against hers, and realizing it, he quickly steps away, slightly flustered. She looks at him, then chuckles softly, rushing off the moment while appreciating his help. Now following his instructions, she learns how to cut the vegetables properly. Afterward, she excitedly runs to the sink, happily showing off how she can use the water magic tool, the faucet. Then curiously, she asks again how to operate the fire magic tool, the stove. Smiling, he insists that she should try to remember on her own. As she watches him cook, the rich, delicious aroma fills the air, making her stomach growl with hunger. After setting the meal on the table, they eagerly prepare to eat. With flushed cheeks, she thanks God before quickly taking a bite of the eggplant, her heart racing in anticipation. The rich aroma had tempted her during cooking, now she's about to savor its taste. She excitedly takes a bite, and the delicious taste overwhelms her. Unable to resist, she quickly finishes the entire plate and enjoys her drink with satisfaction. Finally, she happily praises the meal, while he explains how the blend of tomato and tuna sauce, along with the final touch of dry herbs and basil, enhances its flavor. She genuinely admires the eggplant, appreciating that he grew it himself. He, surprised, wonders if its deliciousness is purely natural since he did nothing special, yet her quick praise excites him. His vegetables usually go to supermarkets, where no one appreciates them. Amazed by the taste, she eagerly declares she could eat 5 plates and requests another serving. Meanwhile, in the village outside the canteen, an old lady calls out to a young shop owner, Kaho Oba, and shockingly informs her about Jin Meta's marriage to an overseas girl. At first, Kaho smiles, thinking it's a joke, but her expression freezes when the old lady insists she saw him walking with a blonde woman the other day. A few meters away at school, Meguro-san stretches and complains about the long lecture, only for Kotori Koiwei to tease her for sleeping through it, making Meguro laugh. After school, as the three walk out together, they are stunned when Alice Haoju, looking shocked, informs them about Jin Mita's marriage to an overseas girl. She explains that her mother and aunt were talking about it, leaving both girls equally surprised. Seeing Shigeru's flustered smile and vague response, Jin immediately realizes that, instead of calling a professional, Shigeru will likely rope him into fixing it again. Shigeru excitedly invites them to enjoy iced green tea and snacks on the porch, and both happily agree. As they settle in, Minori-san cheerfully hands him a tray of snacks. Jin takes it gladly, while Sarah, upon seeing the food, freezes in shock. Curious about her reaction, Jin calmly introduces it as yokan, a sweet made from ground red beans, sugar, and agar, then steamed and hardened. Though she now understands its sweetness comes from sugar, she's still stunned, having never seen black-colored food before. At Jin's encouragement, she hesitantly places her fork into a piece, immediately impressed by its perfectly firm yet soft texture. She watches as Jin takes the first bite, quickly praising Minori-san for the snack's rich and delicious taste. Minori-san, pleased, offers him more tea. As Jin takes a sip, a deep sense of relaxation washes over him. Both sit quietly, gazing at the courtyard as Jin sips his tea, savoring the deliciousness of Japanese food. But soon, he notices Sarah has been oddly silent. Turning to her, he's surprised to see her wearing an unusually sweet expression. She looks at him happily and with delight, praises the snack's perfect sweetness before eagerly taking another bite. As she continues eating, she explains how sweets in her world are overloaded with sugar, making even a single bite overwhelming. She marvels at how incredible this one is, assuring him she'll finish it all. Jin, amused, recalls how Japan's early sweets were similarly overloaded with sugar, making them hard to eat in large amounts. Meanwhile, Minori-san, approaching from behind, beams with excitement upon hearing Sarah's enthusiastic praise. Happily, Minori offers her more, even suggesting she try mizu, a dish completely unfamiliar to Sarah. She lights up with excitement while Jin, concerned, warns her not to overeat. But Shigeru, laughing, reassures him, saying there's no need to worry. Minori is simply enjoying Sarah's company, as it's been a long time since she's had a young guest to share her sweets with. Watching Sarah excitedly savoring the new sweet dish, Jin unconsciously smiles, realizing she has quite the sweet tooth. But his moment of amusement is short-lived when Shigeru-san, with a warm smile, praises him for having such a beautiful wife. Caught off guard, Jin panics, nearly choking on his tea. Minori-san then affectionately adds that Sarah's kindness and sincerity are rare in children nowadays. Struggling to handle the flurry of compliments, Jin, still flustered, forces a polite smile and agrees, calling Sarah a good wife. Peeking at her, he notices her face flushed crimson as she silently sips her tea, seemingly admiring his acting. This only confuses him further. She knows it's not real, so why does she look so genuinely embarrassed? Before he can process it, the couple leans in excitedly, asking where he found such a wonderful wife. Completely panicked, Jin abruptly slides away, overwhelmed with embarrassment. What once seemed like a harmless idea now has him utterly confused. Flustered, he quickly suggests they go home, hoping to escape further questioning. At the shop, Kao Oba is initially stunned by her brother's message about the breaking news of Jin's wife. She dismisses it at first, assuming he's just teasing her. But as the thought lingers, doubt creeps in. Her expression shifts from disbelief to shock, then to growing curiosity to find out the truth. The next day, back at Jin's farm, they harvest crate after crate of long eggplants. Just thinking about hauling them all to the worktable already exhausts him. When Sarah eagerly offers to help, he humbly requests her to carry the crates over, one at a time, since they're quite heavy. But the moment he turns around, his jaw nearly drops. Sarah is happily chatting away while effortlessly carrying 6 crates at once as if they weigh nothing. After a few minutes of work, they return home. In the kitchen, Jin hands Sarah a glass of water. Still baffled by her strength, it's nothing like magic, just pure skill. Curiously, he voices his amazement and humbly thanks her, admitting it's the first time he's finished his work so quickly. Beaming with pride, Sarah happily reassures him, even suggesting he hand over all the heavy tasks to her from now on. As he happily drinks his water, Jin recalls Sarah's explanation about magic, how it flows everywhere but requires a magical organ to use. Curious, he hesitantly asks if she's naturally strong, only for her to clarify that it's entirely due to magic, leaving him even more stunned. Gathering his courage, he asks if he, too, could use magic since it's in the air. Sarah chuckles at the thought, shaking her head. Without a magic organ or proper training, it's impossible. His excitement immediately fades into disappointment. When he grumbles about wanting to use magic to grow vegetables, Sarah can't help but smile and blush at his innocent reasoning. Amused, he tilts his head, now wondering, if not for vegetables, what else is magic even good for? As they lock their eyes, the sudden sound of the sliding door startles them. Both freeze in shock. Sarah immediately jumps to conclusions, whispering urgently enemy attack. Jin, trying to stay calm, sighs and says, "Just stay in the kitchen," before heading out to investigate. As the door slides open, a tomboyish figure makes a dramatic entrance, instantly irritating Jin, who had unfortunately expected this exact scenario. The newcomer, Kaido Oba, doesn't look too pleased either, equally annoyed by Jin's obvious exasperation. Without missing a beat, Jin, already on edge, reminds him, yet again, that childhood friend or not, he should at least ring the bell before barging in like an uninvited guest. Kaido, however, remains unfazed, standing tall with smug confidence as he excitedly declares the purpose of his visit, to meet Jin's rumored wife, whose beauty has apparently become the talk of the town. Jin's irritation deepens as he demands to know how Kaido got wind of this. With an infuriatingly amused glint in his eyes, Kaido reveals that Minori-san is the source of the news. The realization hits Jin like a brick. Minori met Sarah only yesterday, yet the information has already spread at an alarming speed. As if reading his thoughts, Kaido claps a hand on Jin's shoulder, grinning. After all, Jin, the supposed lifelong bachelor, has not only gotten married but has somehow managed to find himself an astonishingly beautiful foreign wife. Naturally, this is headline-worthy news, spreading like wildfire. Meanwhile, Jin just glares at him, silently regretting ever letting this blabbermouth into his life. Both Jin and Kaido freeze in surprise when Sarah politely interrupts their conversation, her soft voice cutting through the tension. With perfect composure, she inquires if they have a guest and whether she should prepare tea to welcome him. Kaido, already shocked, looks even more dumbfounded. Jin, keeping his cool, introduces her to his childhood friend Kaido Oba. At that, Sarah flusters, panicking slightly as she hastily greets him. She formally introduces herself as Seraphim before quickly adding that he can simply call her Sarah. However, as she speaks, an uncertain expression crosses her face, as if second-guessing whether she is following Japanese etiquette correctly. Before she can dwell on it, Kaido suddenly erupts with a shout so loud it practically shakes the house. His confusion and disbelief are almost comical as he demands an explanation. How on earth did Jin end up with such an unbelievably beautiful wife? Where did he even find her? Jin, completely unfazed, replies that he found her in the rice field. She immediately rejects his answer, only making him sigh in frustration. As Kaido doubts their relationship, Sarah panics. Determined to convince him, she dramatically grabs Jin's hand and passionately declares their deep love. Kaido is stunned, but no one is more shocked than Jin, who stares at her, completely blindsided. Still seeing Jin's stunned expression, Sarah leans in and whispers another way to convince Kaido. Jin, now even more flustered, quickly corrects her. It's no doubt just pure shock. Before they can process this, Kaido suddenly smirks. sighing that if he had known farming led to such a beautiful wife, he would have started ages ago. When Sarah sincerely expresses her condolences for his loss, he groans, cutting her off before she gets too serious. Just as things settle, Oba bursts into Jin's house, shouting at her brother for abandoning the shop and leaving all the work to her. But the moment she spots Sarah, her eyes widen in shock. Completely mesmerized by her doll-like beauty, she instinctively steps closer, staring in awe. Sarah, ever polite, introduces herself, snapping Kaho back to reality. Quickly apologizing for forgetting her manners, she beams with delight and introduces herself as Kato's younger sister. Excitedly, she assures Sarah they'll get along well, though from the way she's already showering Sarah with affection, Jin can tell they've hit it off just fine. As Kato drapes an arm around Jin's shoulder, playfully insisting they stay a little longer to get to know Sarah better, Jin coldly shuts him down, ordering him to go home and mind his shop. Annoyed, Kaito scolds him for being so heartless. But before the banter can continue, Kavo suddenly grabs Jin by the wrist and drags him toward the storeroom. Blushing, looking both shy and slightly confused, she hesitantly asks if he's really married to Sarah. Jin barely processes his shock when she adds, with a serious tone, that she wants to say something about Sarah. His brain short-circuits. The way Kaho nervously shifts her gaze and lowers her voice makes it seem like she's about to reveal something that Sarah shouldn't hear. Panic sets in. What if, with her sharp intuition, she's already figured out the truth? Jin breaks into a cold sweat. He has no backup plan if she uncovers this fake marriage. Jin's shock escalates to a whole new level when Kaho suddenly grabs him by the collar, pulls him close, and with an intense whisper curiously points out that Sarah isn't wearing any undergarments. Before he can even process this, she abruptly steps back, her expression going completely blank as she stares at him. Jin, now utterly annoyed, realizes she dragged him all the way here just to tell him this. As he hesitantly opens his mouth to offer some kind of explanation, Kaho, misinterpreting his reaction, assumes he already knew and immediately recoils in disgust, pushing him away. Jin, now flustered and panicked, desperately tries to clear up Kaho's misunderstanding. Frustrated and helpless, he admits he needs to do something about this situation, but he has no idea how to bring it up with Sarah. Glancing over at her, he sees her chatting excitedly with Kaido about candies. Then he casually mentions her unfamiliarity with Japan, which makes him worry she might struggle if she tries to shop alone. With no other option, he pleads with Kaho to take Sarah shopping. Realizing this is all about undergarments, and that Jin, as a guy, is in no position to handle it, she smirks at his horrified expression before finally agreeing. Jin exhales in relief, trusting his childhood friend to handle this. But just as he relaxes, Kaho flashes a mischievous grin and sweetly demands some new clothes for herself as payment. Jin first stares at her in defeat before reluctantly agreeing, on the condition that she keeps it within budget. Instantly thrilled, Kaho shoves her brother out the door to fetch the family car, completely ignoring his desire to tag along. Instead, she strictly orders him to return to his candy shop because this is a mission strictly for her and Sarah. At Jin's home, Sarah, not comfortable with the shower, reflects on his kindness. He had insisted she go shopping for clothes, even though she already felt grateful for the high-quality outfit he had given her. She didn't really need more, but she appreciated his thoughtfulness. Meanwhile, Jin worried about whether she even understood what she needed to buy. But since there were other essentials to get as well, they ultimately decided to go. As she bathes, she catches her reflection in the mirror and pauses. Curiously, she experiments with different hairstyles, softly smiling at herself, both surprised and amused by the unfamiliar sight. After her bath, Sarah feels refreshed, and as she steps out, she finds Jin already prepared for their shopping trip. At the door, Kago waits, having brought the family car. Jin glances at Sarah and casually asks if they should head out, but her shocked and surprised expression makes him pause. Concerned, he asks if something's wrong. Sarah, still staring, finally blurts out her surprise at his appearance. This was a completely new look for him. Jin, slightly amused, explains that while he usually wears work or casual clothes, this outfit is for special occasions. He also reassures her that they'll pick out some proper outfits for her as well. Sarah nods in understanding, but even as they move toward the car, she keeps stealing glances at him, still processing this unexpected change. Outside, Kaho eagerly waits by the car, smiling excitedly as she hands the keys to Jin, letting him drive. While doing so, she curiously asks about Sarah's sword, whether they left it at home. Jin hesitates before explaining the tradition of sword carrying in Sarah's country. casually suggesting they ignore it. But Kao, now shocked, asks if it's real. Seeing her reaction, Jin, flustered and panicked, quickly laughs it off, insisting it's just a toy. With that settled, they finally get into the car. Sarah looks around, visibly impressed by how spacious it is. Noticing her excitement, Kao cheerfully offers her some candies and juice she brought along. Meanwhile, Jin, watching them bond over snacks like they're on a picnic, sighs in mild annoyance. Kao casually reminds Sarah to fasten her seatbelt, demonstrating by securing her own, only to freeze in embarrassment upon noticing Sarah's lack of undergarments. Jin, equally flustered, clears his throat and hurriedly starts the car to avoid further awkwardness. As they drive, Sarah curiously presses her hand against the window, fascinated by the passing scenery. Jin, noticing, absent-mindedly rolls down her window. The sudden gust of wind startles her, but soon she blushes in delight, enjoying the refreshing breeze while Jin sighs, realizing this trip might be longer than expected. As Jin catches a glimpse of Sarah in the rearview mirror, he finds himself momentarily mesmerized. Kaho, noticing, smirks and teases him to focus on the road, calling him driver, which makes him grip the steering wheel tighter in annoyance. To lighten the mood, Kao suggests playing a game and Jin, somewhat eager, agrees. Sarah enthusiastically proposes Tekinoko Naki, but misunderstanding her hand gesture, she assumes it's a prayer before a meal. Jin quickly dismisses the idea, reminding them he's driving. After a long drive filled with chatter and laughter, they finally arrive. Jin stretches his shoulders, relieved. Kao excitedly invites Sarah to explore the stores, but Sarah remains frozen, staring in awe at the massive, unfamiliar place. When Kao casually explains it's a shopping mall, Sarah, still shocked, points at a commercial on a LED screen featuring a yoga instructor and anxiously asks if that woman owns the entire place.